Have you been looking for that royal highway that leads to self-mastery and to a knowledge of truth? Well, the author, Uriel Buchanan, in his book titled The Mind's Attainment, is offering us ways to find that road and begin that journey. It leads to more happiness and success. If you're new and just found us, welcome, and to our subscribing community, welcome back. So what did you think about that last chapter? Oh, and by the way, if you just found us and would like to access previous videos, please visit my book playlist. In the previous chapter, the author was sharing ways that we can get to that higher life, but also maintain ourselves there. And it's not that complicated. I'm sure that many of you have had this experience because I know I have. And have you ever gone into a place or a space where there are people and you kind of get this feeling that the energy there, it doesn't feel too good. It's like it's either heavy or just something and you just like, oh my God, I've got to get out of here. Well, from reading what this author has shared and many others, and from my own personal experience, I would say that that is one's own energy field responding to the energy that you've just walked into, or it also could be the receptive state of your mind clashing with the other thought energies that are there and alerting you to the state. It's almost like a built-in mechanism. So when the author stated that we should avoid, and he said literally, carefully avoid the thought atmosphere, people who are depressed, who are confused, who are despondent, who are fear-based, because sooner or later you will actually begin to draw those same types of energy to you. And one of the other words that this author mentioned was corresponding, which reminds me of another author that I will be bringing to the channel. His name is Emanuel Swedenborg, and he talked about the law of correspondences. So pretty much that we are drawing things to us which correspond to our most predominant mood or state of mind. So as we elevate our thoughts or lower them, the vibration will begin to attract similar, and we can actually push out lower vibration thoughts by increasing the state of those higher thoughts. And lastly, I loved when the author said, man's mind is the builder, the creator, the controller of every condition of material environment. And if you want to see the truth of that statement, because he said material environment, he didn't say about nature, he said material environment. So anytime that you see a car, a chair, an object, we have created that through thought of mind, through harnessing of the resources. And so the statement is true. We are the builder. We are the creator. We're the controllers. Let that sit and rest with you and begin to realize the power that you have within yourself. And that is the segue to the next chapter. Chapter 15, The Higher Life. For ages, the idea has prevailed that the path to truth is difficult to tread, that the way is narrow, and the destiny of those who walk therein is one of sacrifice and sorrow. And so it has been for all who have fixed their gaze beyond the realities of the present and have followed the mirage of an impossible heaven, seeking a personal nirvana in which the race was not to share. Within reach of all, demanding neither loss nor suffering, is the royal highway that leads to self-mastery and to a knowledge of truth. It is not by renouncing the happiness that is near us, nor by ignoring the beauties of nature and art and all that is bright and beautiful in human life, that we shall grow wise and good. The supreme aim of man is to be happy. We have learned that it is possible to be happy and still to be wise. It might almost be said that there happens to men all things that are earnestly desired. We have surely the right to demand a knowledge of the law of our being, and we have also the right to expect that this knowledge will place in our hands the key to success and happiness and perfect control over environment. There is no virtue in the self-torture that is inflicted for the hope of reward. There is no genuine goodness in the heart of those who assume piety for the sake of gain, just as there is no true charity that is prompted by the knowledge that the benevolent deed will be heralded abroad. If it were possible to obtain riches by being good, what a great revival of the religious sentiment the world would experience. But what can be said of the quality of that goodness which is inspired by the hope of present or future reward? True charity is the help given with no thought of compensation or applause. And the only goodness that has merit is that principle which urges man to live up to his highest ideals of right, indifferent alike to the world's scorn or applause. Heretofore, we have lived in the bosom of hypocrisy and greed. We have worn the mask of pretense. We have surrounded ourselves by a false light, smothering in our hearts the white flame of native honor. It is idle to speak of truth, of justice, happiness, morals, and all things related thereto, before the mask has been torn from us and all that is false in our nature crushed. The darkness that hangs over our life will then pass away. Whatever our relation may be to the world at large, we cannot find the happiness we seek, nor exert a great influence in any sphere of activity until we gain the strength of character to be absolutely straightforward and honest with our dealings with men. And happen what may, the time can be never ill spent that we give to acquiring mastery over some defect in our nature. If we conceive ourselves to be superior to the follies and temptations which hinder our progress, by the gradual increase of the power within us, our moral and mental life will derive strength and permanent support. To do our true duty, it must ever be done with the aid of our faith in the harmony and goodness of natural law. While the reason is fettered and bound, we are slaves to the discordant thought currents projected by unawakened minds. But when silent reason keeps faithful watch over the mysterious inner forces of mind, man's life will be steered to the haven of wisdom and happiness. Folded within the brain of man are all possibilities, for he is created in the image of the infinite. The life within him is without beginning and without end. Forms change, the visible becomes invisible, and out of the unseen, new creations spring. Nebula becomes sun, and suns become nebula again. But pervading all is the current of an absolute consciousness of which man is an inseparable part. In him, the infinite awakens to self-consciousness. There cannot be an exact without an original abstract. Man is an epitome of the universal, and by recognizing this true relationship, he may give expression to the divine harmonies of a supreme creation. As a thought entity, he is an ever-growing power, unfolding like the seed which sends its roots deep into the soils and sends out its tendrils into the air and sunlight. The earth receives the divine germs of the race from the atomic rays of the sun. Every struggle of the mind, every aspiration of the heart, every desire to give expression to the things vaguely left, is an actual expanding of the divine self, pushing aside the things which restrain it. We have always existed, in essence, in the bosom of the infinite, and the atoms which now clothe the subliminal self have been propelled forward by the surging wave of mundane life, which has beat upon the shores of earth since prehistoric times and vibrated in the stardust of cosmic substance when this world existed only as a manifested idea in the infinite mind. We call the ground beneath us clay, soil, dust. These names are but symbols of certain energies, tendencies, unlimited possibilities. The earth is not lifeless. It is made of forces which vibrate through the universal ether. It is fed by unseen currents vibrating from the sun and from stars innumerable. This that we call matter has been everything we know. Also, much that we cannot know. Every visible thing is an aggregation of cells containing the divine spark. And as such, every cell is endowed with a progressive impulse, urging it to seek its affinity on higher and still higher planes of expression. All that is best in the good that is now being done, as well as the deepest knowledge that has yet been vouchsafed to us, is the result of forces that have been struggling for expression in the life of humanity since the birth of man. Slowly and painfully we have been wresting from nature the secrets she has long hidden from us, and our progression has been fraught with mistakes and with suffering. The darkness that hangs over the past still casts its shadow over the world today. But the mysteries that have been fathomed by science and the knowledge acquired by those on the heights shed an increasing light far down into the valley, and all who will open their eyes to the living realities round about them may read the signs of the time and feel the thrill of a quickening power. Deep down in regions unlit by the light of the dawn, a few still grope in the darkness and cling to the phantoms of vanished days. But the radiance grows greater with the march of the years, and heeds not the murmur of dissenting voices down there in the shadows. Invisible forces of nature are blending with forces in the mind of man, and the light on life's horizon grows brighter and purer and shines with a mightier radiance into the heart and life of progressive humanity. Within reach of those in the deep valley below, as well as to one who has approached nearer the summit of the highest ideal, within reach of all is the knowledge of truth and the attainment of freedom which wisdom gives. Ours is the choice whether the monitions of wisdom and truth shall guide our wandering footsteps to the threshold of freedom and power, or that we shall remain deaf and blind to the whir of the white wings of the dove of peace that flies over the pathway of our destiny. The inner life, in its most permanent form, is built up in the consciousness of the man who has suffered himself to become beautiful and pure. The inner sanctuary may be entered by the lowliest of men, while it often may happen that one of vast knowledge who seeks the invisible presence shall fail to discover the way that leads to the threshold of happiness. The intellect alone cannot lift the veil that enwraps the inmost consciousness of man, cannot survey the sacred recesses where life abides in the majesty of peaceful repose. But one who grows nobler in an ever loftier consciousness and purer love, one who is gentle and good, shall receive the light that will illumine the mind, reveal the way to the mysterious sources of vision, and open the heart to the influx of profoundest joy. Who has not heard in the depths of his being the whisper of loftiest instincts, and felt the influence of a resistless power surge up from the mysterious gulf within? They who have dwelt in the silence, they who have dived down to explore the undercurrents of destiny, have brought a few secret jewels from the treasure of truth to the surface. But they who have gone down deepest have touched only the shoals of the hidden life, and they alone know how unfathomable is the sea of infinity on which humanity reposes. There are those who have drawn themselves away from the life movement of the race and plunged into the abyss of abstraction with an eagerness to gain for themselves the riches that lie hidden there, and to wrap themselves in the robe of proud intellectualism without respect to the burden of sorrow that enthralls mankind. But the possession of true knowledge draws man nearer to man, and identifies those who think with those who toil. It becomes the office of the truly wise to consecrate their gifts to the useful service of all, and to infuse the light of their wisdom into the minds of the unawakened. In imagination alone does the gulf exist between the saint and the sinner, for there is an invisible goodness in the heart of the most depraved, and a faint glimmering of wisdom even in the mind of a fool. The man of true power is he who invokes the living streams of life, which descend from the hills of universal nature and compels them to flow through the barren plains and waste places of earth, as well as through peaceful and fertile valleys where golden harvests wave. Let us not dam up the currents of energy that inflow to us, for in the great reservoir of nature is the essence of all power. And while reaching up with one hand to receive the gifts that are bountifully bestowed, let us ever extend the other to those in the darkness, that they, too, may become conscious of the deeper realities and receive a foregleam of the higher destiny that awaits them. If we close up the avenues of our mind through which flow the magnetic streams from the mysterious deeps, the waters of life will become stagnant within us. If our life be truly in touch with the infinite supply, there need be no fear of exhausting our forces by giving to others. The streams that branch out from the clear fountain of wisdom will ever enlarge as they flow. The currents will grow deeper and broader as they blend with other streams from the same sources of life, finally forming the wide and deep rivers which carry the burden of many a frail bark, whose white sails would never have been unfurled to the breeze and the heavens but for the brooklets that flow from perennial sources back there in the mountains. The mystical river of life flows on, renewed eternally by crystal streams from the fountain of truth. It flows through the dark canyons where the sun ever gleams on its waters, as it flows by the great cities where all is activity and glory. It flows through vast deserts where no echo responds to its murmur, as it flows through broad valleys and green pastures where all is gladness and peace. It streams on forever in search of the sea of universal humanity. End of chapter 15. Stay right here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll flip the page to chapter 16, Our Destiny. Man has toiled tirelessly in his search for knowledge, and by his power and genius, he has transformed the face of nature into symmetry and beauty. He has felled the forest and reared in their place cities and empires. He has spanned the rivers, crossed the continents with railways, and conquered the adverse waves of the sea, over which he rides swiftly and fearlessly by the magic power of resistless steam. He has cunningly enslaved the elements of the world and subjected even the wind and the lightning to his command. The telegraphs and cables have annihilated space and time and brought the people of every land into closer and more vital relation with each other. He has taken dull clay and shaped it into a beauteous vase, a block of marble and chiseled into a perfect image of the ideal form, a string and piece of wood, and made a sweet-voiced violin. At his command, waste places have blossomed into gardens of luxuriance. Fire and air, electricity and light have been subdued to his service. The printing press has made us acquainted with the noble thoughts and deeds of the great men of every age, with the heroes who have spent their lives for others, the poets and orators who have charmed the world with eloquence and song, the painters and sculptors who have created immortal forms with brush and chisel, the composers who have interpreted the melody of sound, and the philosophers who have searched the depths of being and learned the secrets of the stars. These marvelous achievements, and many more, have been recorded, and such things will enlighten and encourage the generations yet to be. This life, with all the mysteries that enshroud it, with all the pain and joy that accompany it, has flowed on in an ever-winding stream, coursing through the veins of the rude and uncluttered, whose thoughts are only of the visible things surrounding daily life, on, ever on, awakening at times to a vague consciousness, to come again with renewed forces, pulsating now to the heartthrobs of genius. And thus it will continue to flow until it has scintillated through every influence that the stream of progression claims. The love of life is a universal instinct whose aspirations are the wooings of the infinite. Seers have had visions, prophets and teachers have been inspired, and great minds in every period of the historic ages have foreseen vaguely the future existence of a race which shall inhabit the earth when the old world shadows have passed away. A new race without disease, perfect in every form and function, possessing a knowledge of the laws which govern life. Have all these prophecies, all these visions and inspirations been only an illusion, only a dream, an ecstasy with no foundation, no reality in the realm of truth? Everything points to a higher goal. Nothing is permanent. Every element in life and nature is seeking a more perfect expression. The divine element fire, which is the source of all aspiration, burns brightly in the heart of humanity, and we stand today on the threshold of a brighter era. The clouds of superstition, bigotry, and ignorance are passing through the minds of men. We are connected by closer sympathies, inspired by higher ideals, and are nearer to the source of all knowledge and power. Above the noise and confusion, those who listen will hear the divine harmonies and will feel an irresistible force which has taken hold of awakened minds to exert a potent influence over the life of the world. The human race may soon enjoy the tranquility and peace for which it has yearned through all the centuries. Each one may hasten the day by joining his forces with the high and pure currents of thought and holding steadfastly to noble ideals. Deep in the mind of every thoughtful person are beautiful pictures and dreams of an ideal state of existence which surpasses the present as the brightness of the sun outshines the stars. The sublimity of nature, the glory of the sunset, the beauty of the sea and sky, the vaulted heavens, the nourishing air, and the bounteous store of fruits and grains for man's material needs are all an evidence of the harmony and goodness of the law which gave him being and endowed him with the possibility of obtaining dominion. We are so near to striking the keynote of supremacy, so near to the realization of all the truth and beauty of the world. We know that we have power to break every fetter made by the mistakes of the errorful past and to create an individuality which will express all the divine attributes of the higher self. And yet we continue to walk in the shadows, to cling to the old customs, and to follow the path of bitter experiences. And we know, too, that suffering inevitably awaits us, that the inexorable law will punish every transgression. The dross has not all been consumed. The purifying fire is not yet extinguished. But we are learning that the will and mind are supreme, that we may overcome every limitation, banish every phantom, conquer every opposing force, and win our way to the goal of every worthy ambition. We are coming more and more under the direct influence and leading of the divine nature. We are beginning to express the best that is within us. And as the torch of reason burns more brightly, we are treading the pathway which leads to the heights. The time is not far distant when character will determine man's place in the world, when justice will have recognition, and all shall receive a reward for their labors according to merit. You who have gained a knowledge of the laws of mind, who understand the force of persistent, earnest desire and demand, by holding a clear vision of the ideal state governing the new order of humanity, may hasten the time of its fulfillment. Send out daily the silent word over the human sea of thought, and affirm that the world is now emerging into the light of wisdom, that the heart of humanity is responding to the influence of unselfish love, that the spirit of truth is descending to abide with all men. With the new light that is now dawning on the world, sickness, poverty, sorrow, and weakness will pass away. Hearts now ruled by antagonism will melt to love. Minds now grasping and selfish will become generous and broad. The poor and the helpless will be taught the way to opulence and strength. Misery and want will no more thrive like weeds in a garden by the side of the rich and powerful. Human equality and justice will be no longer a dream, for all men will walk in the light of high ideals, and each will perform his part in the great work of the world, receiving reward and recognition. The discontent, the turmoil and conflict of today is the result of great changes taking place in the domain of mind, and the long-cherished ideals are preparing the way for material expression. End of chapter 16. Head on over to the next video where I'll be there with chapter 17, Human Progress.